All right, guys, so who can tell me what peristalsis is? Not one person. Now, you guys know you have all this written down in your notes.
Unless you have a computer, you can just type in, what is peristalsis?
Yeah. Why did you do that? Instead, you're sitting there saying, I don't know the answer. But you got to find it. So peristalsis, remember I compared it to a tube of toothpaste. Does that help you remember what I'm talking about? Remember, this occurs in the esophagus. If you look, go ahead, Jamie.
It's how the food gets from the mouth to your stomach.
Yeah, it's an involuntary wave of muscle contractions, basically, that is squeezing the food down until it reaches your stomach. Good. Now, I wanted you, for the second part of the do now, to list all the places where chemical digestion takes place and all the places where mechanical digestion takes place. So let's start with chemical. Where are all the places chemical takes place? There's 3 places for chemical digestion. Well, we talked about this yesterday. Where does it start? Where does digestion start? Does it start in your large intestines? Where do you start breaking down the food? No, even before that.
No.
The mouth, right? How is chemical digestion accomplished in the mouth? What's that? Well, there's only one type of chemical in your mouth, right? Saliva. Good. Now, the next stop would be it's going to go from the mouth, down the esophagus, into the stomach. Second spot for chemical digestion. Now, where does it go after the stomach? Oops. Where does it go after the stomach? Small intestine. So there are your 3 places where chemical digestion is taking place. It's taking place in the mouth with the saliva, the gastric juices in the stomach, and the enzymes that are being dumped into the small intestine. So digestion is finished in the small intestine. Now, what if there's only 2 places where mechanical digestion takes place? What are those 2 places? Again, where does digestion start? You just said it before. In the mouth. So how is mechanical digestion accomplished in the mouth? By chewing. Good. Now, where is the second spot where mechanical digestion takes place? And we call that process churning. It's a J-shaped pouch made of muscle that squeezes and relaxes, squeezes and relaxes. It's at the end of the esophagus. It begins with an S, a T. Nobody can tell me the organ? It goes from the mouth, down the esophagus, into the stomach. Yes, the stomach. All right. So one other thing I want to do before I start you on your activity for today is to go over the Venn diagram from yesterday. So if you open that up, because I do want to make sure that you guys have the right answers. There we go. Gotta open this up. Want to make sure you have it right. Okay, so again, you had to drag each term, and you had to tell me whether it was chemical digestion, mechanical digestion, or both. So let me just make this bigger. All right. So Stomach squeezing food. What would that be an example of? The stomach is squeezing the food. Is that chemical digestion, mechanical digestion, or both? The stomach squeezing the food. What? Mechanical. So we would have to move that over in mechanical. Oh, it's not letting me move in the present mode. All right. So that would go under mechanical. Good. Now, what about involves enzymes? Is that mechanical, chemical, or both? Using enzymes, such as the enzymes found in your saliva, in your gastric juice. Come on, guys. An enzyme is a chemical. Is that chemical digestion or mechanical digestion? Chemical. So that would be here. Now, breaking down food into smaller molecules. Is that chemical, mechanical, or both? All right. Breaks food down into smaller pieces. Example would be chewing, breaking it down into smaller pieces. Is that chemical, mechanical, or both? Mechanical. Good. All right, the next one occurs in the mouth. Chemical, mechanical, or both? Both. Occurs in the stomach. Mechanical, chemical, or both? Well, what type of digestion takes place in the stomach? But didn't we just mention that it's both? Yes, it's both. All right. Biting and chewing. Mechanical, chemical, or both? Mechanical. All right, and then acids and enzymes in the stomach break down food. Chemical, mechanical, or both? We're talking about acids and enzymes. Chemical. Make sure you have these correct. Now, on to the activity. I'll leave this up here for a second. So the activity, I posted it up on Google Classroom. It says Cracker Activity, so if you can open that up, please. I'm going to come around and bring each one of you a cracker. Do not do anything with it yet. So again, open up that Cracker Activity in Classroom. I have this. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, this is not the one. This is the one. Okay. So, The instructions doesn't explain to you how to eat the cracker the way you're supposed to do it. So let me explain to you. So when I do tell you to eat the cracker, what you're going to do is you're going to put it in your mouth. Okay. You're going to let it sit in your mouth for about 1.5 minutes before you actually start chewing, because you want the cracker to soak up the saliva. And remember, what does saliva have in it? It has enzymes, right? That starts the chemical digestion process. So after 1.5 minutes of soaking it in your mouth, then you're going to start chewing. What you're going to notice is a change in taste, and that's the whole purpose of this. So if you look at the first thing, it says make a prediction based on your observations. What part of the body, mouth, small intestines, large intestines, is where digestion of carbohydrates begins? All right, so let me explain to you the difference between, before you move any further. There's two types of carbohydrates, right? We have simple carbohydrates, which are your sugars. And then you have complex carbohydrates, which are your starches. So what is the difference between the two? Not much. Starch. All right, so individual sugar molecule, glucose, right? You guys have heard of glucose, right? Because that's the end result of photosynthesis. You learned that in 6th grade. So you have one glucose molecule, right? Table sugar, which is called sucrose, that's the sugar that you have at home. That is made up of two glucose molecules connected together. All right, so we call that a disaccharide, di meaning two. All right, so, but what starch is, like what you get in your potatoes and pasta, all starch is a whole bunch of glucose molecules connected together in a long chain. All right, so if you want a quick source of energy, sugar. Why? Because you don't have to break it down. It's already in its simplest form. So that could be used by the body immediately. But where you have complex carbohydrates, it's going to take the body time to break these down into their individual sugar molecules so that your body can use them. So starches, the energy will be available later. If you need immediate energy, we're talking about glucose. One of the enzymes that you have in your saliva is called amylase. Amylase is an enzyme that breaks down starch into individual sugars. All right? So that will help you answer questions further down the line. The next thing here, this is a bar graph, and all they want you to do is down here fill in this, indicate the change that occurred. So for instance, water. If you look at water in the graham cracker and look at water in the mouth, there was no change between the two. All right? So that would be zero change. Same thing with protein. Same thing with fats. All right? And then I'll let you figure out the other two on your own. So at this point, go ahead, put the cracker in your mouth. You're going to need to you're going to need to know the taste of it at the beginning, and then by the time you're done with it in your mouth, all right? Because the taste is going to change, so you need to indicate that. So put it in your mouth now, and after about 1.5 minutes, I will tell you to start chewing. Here you go. You too. And just let it sit there. I'll tell you when to start chewing. All right, you should be done about now. Now, did anybody notice a change in the flavor and when the change in taste? And when I talk about taste, you remember there's like different areas of your tongue, right? You have sour, sweet, salty, right? Those are your basic tastes. So, was there a change from the beginning to the end on one of those tastes? This usually requires a response. You didn't find any difference in the taste. You didn't see that it started tasting sweeter towards the end of it. Yes, no? All right. Well, what happens is the carb in while it's sitting in your mouth, this is happening where you have amylase, you have it breaking down the glucose, and you're supposed to, by the end, it's supposed to start to taste not like sweet, like it has sugar on it, but a change that it's sweeter than it originally was, and that's because you have chemical digestion occurring in the mouth. Okay, so go ahead, complete this Google Doc for me, and make sure you turn it in when it is done. Make sure you address the questions at the bottom, also concerning the graph.